Hey guys, Jared Flinn with the BulkLoads podcast. Tyler's in here with me.
What's going on?
Man, this weather's what's going on.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's like, feels like fall.
Yeah, I'm excited. Fall's my favorite season. You got deer hunting, duck hunting, everything around there.
Football.
Yep.
Yeah. Sports and all that. But yeah, we knew this last week. I went up to the Missouri State Fair and had a little book signing deal. Actually, I was asked by the Missouri Cattle Women's Association to come up there. So I was honored to go up there. And I forgot just how much fun the state fair is. And I know all across our span of members and throughout, I'm sure many are experiencing their state fairs and just the traditions that go with that, from the livestock show, all the exhibits. I mean, it's a huge ag fest.
Yeah, it's awesome. I haven't been in a couple of years, but it's always a good time whenever you get to go.
Yeah, and I was surprised. I didn't, and we told a few people, but some BulkLoads members stopped by where we were doing the book signing for kids. So I was just honored to be there and enjoy that time.
Yeah, and you were telling me you brought some of the hopper trucks and stuff, and you were saying that all the kids were running up asking if they could touch it and hold it and take it home.
Some of them wanted the actual hopper truck more than the book.
Yeah. That's so cool to see that they're interested in that kind of stuff, though.
Yeah,
That's what you like to see.
I've said this before in previous podcasts, but yeah, I have a children's book out at Semi-Sam, and there's a series. I have 3 out now. I'm working on 2 more, but they are available on Amazon. You can just look up Semi-Sam, and you'll see on there. If you aren't able or would like a free copy, I would love to gift that to you all. Simply contact us however you want. You can comment in the section below on here or reach out to Tyler. We'll get one in your hands. It's my passion and desire to give back and to help kids read, and honestly, more than read, but teach them about trucking and agriculture. And that was the whole goal with this book.
Yeah. Jared, before we jump into the meat and potatoes, what do you think about the new studio setup?
Yeah, well, I want to ask our audience, what do you think about it? If you're watching this show, drop down and give us some feedback. We had I think we had like the old wood 90s look. So we've kind of got an update, and a shout out to Joseph on our team. Many of y'all don't. I guess he was on the last intro I saw, but he's the one. He's our guru, really, along with you, but really made that happen. So thank you, Joe, for putting this together.
Yeah, definitely let us know what you guys think about it. And Jared, you did this episode solo. You kind of talked about just advice you'd give yourself if you were to go back 13 years ago whenever you started the company. And
you'll hear, I don't want to give it away. It's a shorter version. One thing here, and you'll see in more and more of these solo podcasts that we're going to be releasing, it's been my passion here and a calling to really help educate and teach the generation coming up in trucking. And maybe there's some older generations that can get something out of this. But as I'm now, approaching really my 20th year in trucking, what have I learned over those years, and really the mistakes that I've made and what I'd tell myself. So this is one of those. My goal, though, is to produce more and more of these episodes. I get contact all the time. Actually, as a matter of fact, just yesterday I was contacted by a BulkLoads member that just wanted my advice on marketing and how I would approach that. So gave that to him and love doing that. It's more satisfying than anything I can do is to give back to those and help those that are successful.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, cool. Well, with that said, here is my solo podcast. Hope you enjoy. Hey guys, Jared Flinn here today. I am going to do this show solo. This is another topic that's been stirring in my head and in my heart for a while, and wanted to share it with you as our listeners and guests. But someone asked me recently, actually it was last week, like if there's something you could tell yourself, 13 years ago when you started BulkLoads, what would that be? And I had to think on that a minute, and then the answer came to me. But the answer was simply, do not be afraid. When I started BulkLoads back in 2011, I was afraid, and with right reason, but having a family, a daughter, newborn daughter, and with a son on the way, my wife and I chose to I chose to stop working for a company and start BulkLoads. And there was just a lot of fear and there was a lot of uncertainty, which is totally right to feel that way. But I realized that, I couldn't fear the unknown. And that's when we started BulkLoads. I started reaching out to people and getting everything together. But if I look back, I wish I would have told, if I could go back and talk to myself, I would just say, do not fear, do not be afraid about the future. Do not be afraid about your family. Do not be afraid about your competition, and trust in God. And that's what I want to share with you today. Um, when we're in business, there's constant fear of the unknowns. There's the constant fear of losing an account, not winning business. There's a fear of maybe starting a conversation or reaching out to someone. And when I look back and I look back on the journey that I've got to be here, it was those times where I stepped out of my fear and I said, hey, I am going to try this and I'm going to take the next step. One thing a lot of people don't realize about me, and especially being on a podcast and doing this for 6 or 7 years, I was deathly afraid of public speaking. If I knew that I would have to get in front of a group of people, whether it was back in high school or in college, or even with my first big job when I worked at Bartlett Grain, I was deathly afraid to get up there. I remember when I worked at Bartlett, I would have to, every morning at 9 o'clock, we would have to go in for a quick roundtable meeting with all the operations managers and merchandising managers and give an update. And I would start getting sick to my stomach and nervous that morning, knowing that at 9 a.m. I had to go in there and give that presentation. So what did I do about it? I started looking up ways, and actually a friend of mine told me about an organization or club called Toastmasters. And I looked into it, and it's an organization to help you overcome that fear of public speaking. So I took that next step and started attending. It was a Wednesday meeting, I believe, with Toastmasters, and it was a group of people that wanted to get better at communicating, whether it was giving speech or just being more effective a communicator. So I started doing Toastmasters, and within months, I started realizing, man, I can overcome this fear of public speaking and hopefully deliver a solid, powerful message to the people that I want to listen to it. And it transitioned into my work, where I became more confident when talking to people, and especially confident talking to the people that I wanted to get my delivery and speech across to effectively. So I wanted to share that specific story, but there was also times in my journey worrying about, the fear of, hey, what about if I, tell the merchandisers a certain rate on a lane and I'm off, and I had to trust in myself and trust in my gut and trust in God that I could be close. And there was times I would be wrong, but I did calculated risks. I figured out that, hey, I think if we could do this, we can move this. And you know what? 99% of the time it worked out. So my encouragement to you is, if there's something you're worried about, a business decision, and it could be a personal decision or a family decision, again, don't be a fool. You have to weigh the risk, but take away those fears, or figure out ways that you can overcome those fears and get ahead. I've heard this said before, but in the Bible, they talk about, it specifically talks about not having fear. Do not fear 365 days, or excuse me, 365 times. Well, that's the same as 365 days a year. So ironically, it's the same amount that the Bible's telling us do not fear in a year. So I think there's something to be said there. So that's just a reminder that I want to give to you out there when you're out there making these decisions. I think I hear it all the time from our users. I hear it from our trucking companies, brokerages, and even shippers about, what's the future hold, or how do I do this, or how to do that, or I don't know how to handle this situation. And I think so many times we can not make a decision, but by not making a decision, we are still making a decision to not make a decision. So trying to figure out how we overcome that. So again, my challenge for you today, as listeners of this podcast, I want you to figure out, what are those fears that are holding you back in life? Is it a fear of, maybe you be listening to this and you're working for someone and starting a business, or starting maybe a side business or something else to supply more income? Maybe there is something that you're passionate about, that you have a gift for, that you're good at, something, maybe it's some kind of artwork or project or something you're good at making, and you just haven't taken that next step. I want to encourage you today to reach out and figure out how to take that next step. The other thing too, with these fears, sometimes we don't know how to overcome those, or we think too big, like, oh my gosh, I got to do this, this, this. Well, a lot of times if we just break it down into bite-sized pieces, we can actually start that progress. And even if you're carving out 10 minutes a day, say, hey, I want to make sure and read so many books and develop my leadership habits, and that's one for me, but figure out a way to do that. So for me, I personally said that I'm going to set aside 30 minutes every day. And again, 30 minutes, maybe it's not all in one time. Maybe it's 10 minutes here, 10 minutes here, and 10 minutes here, but I'm going to take 30 minutes and learn more about how to be an effective or better leader. So if there's other things that you want to learn or be able to, just figure out a way to systematically do that. One thing that I love, and I've shared this with a lot of members in my team, but if you have, and I'm sure on other smartphones it is, but specifically Apple, there's a spot on there where you can make reminders, and you can set reminders to go every hour, every minute, or however you want. But I have certain reminders to remind me that, hey, today you have to do this. And when I do that, I'm able to check that off my reminder list every day. You have to do this. And every day, if you go on my list, I have 6 or 7 reminders that I have on there that I know that, hey, and the thing is, every time I pick up my phone, which most of us look at it a lot during the day, the first thing I see are those reminders that I have to get accomplished during the day. So that's just one simple trick or hack that I've used over the years to make sure and keep those reminders. I've said this before on previous podcasts. If you have something, write it on a sticky note, put it somewhere where you are going to see that thing every day. If it's up here, it really moves into space. It never gets down to where it needs to be. So move it from here into somewhere physical or where you can read that every day. And I think that'll get you started in the right direction. So I want to end in closing here and just my prayer for you as listeners on this, and I say this with total encouragement and empathy, figure out ways that you can overcome these fears in your life. And maybe you don't think that there is a fear. Maybe it's like, hey, I just have this, but maybe it is a fear. Maybe it's stopping you from what God has designed you to be. I thought about this even last night before even prepared for this podcast today, but man, God has put us here on earth for a specific purpose. And maybe we haven't realized that purpose. Maybe we have, but that's another prayer or thing you'd be thinking about. What is holding me back today, or what fears do I have for the God-given purpose that I have on this life, or that I have on this earth while I'm living? So again, my prayer for you today is for you to take that next step, move out of your comfort zone, try to figure out that fear specifically that you have, that you've been battling maybe most of your life. Maybe it's here recently. Maybe it's, fear of someone, in your family. It could be a coworker. It could be fear of a boss. Maybe it's fear of a competitor like I had at one time, or someone out there. But how do you overcome that fear to continue to move forward in life? I think one thing that's been interesting for me, we're post-COVID now, but I think it changed life for a lot of people, and it created a lot of fear in our society and in our world. And I think some people still are pent up by some of those fears that they had, not specifically of COVID, but just the way the world reacted to COVID. And how do we overcome those? Some of those I still have today. I still think that when are things coming back to normal? And the reality is this is normal. This is the society that we have. This is the way we're moving forward, and how do we deal with that? So again, not to keep carrying on there, but again, my prayer for you today is to overcome those fears. Man, if you'd be bold enough, I would love for you to jot down in the comments below here, maybe a fear that you have you want to overcome. Don't be afraid to do that. If you want to reach out to me directly and let me know if there's a way that we can be praying for you over those fears. But again, it's probably the single most thing that holds us back in life and holds us from doing the things that, again, God has called us to do. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope it's been inspirational for you. If there's anything I can do or a prayer for you, please reach out to us anytime here at BulkLoads.com. Thank you very much. And as always, God bless. Well, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Man, I would love for you to give me feedback, good or bad. Actually, as much as I love hearing good, I want to hear constructive. I want to hear other things, other questions that you might have, maybe other things that you're battling in your business career. Maybe you've been in business for a while, or maybe just starting. There's just something that doesn't make sense. I don't know all the answers, but I've been there and done that. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. So give me shoot us a message either in the comments below or reach out to us directly, and would love to address those. And I know if you have a question, it's usually the same question many others have.
And if you talked about this in the actual episode, but if you haven't written down your goals or your fears that you'd like to overcome, one way to do it is to make it public. Go to the YouTube channel on this video, drop a comment of what you want to overcome or your goals that you're striving for, or even send us an email, podcast@BulkLoads.com. And we'll make sure we hold you to it. We may hit you up in 6 months if you let us know, and we'll ask you how you're doing with that.
Yeah. Again, if you keep them inside, they will never go anywhere. But getting them out there, writing them down, it brings them to life and allows you to overcome those. Yep. So really serious when we talk about that and how we can help you do that. So I'm still battling fears. As I said, I'm still working through. I'm sure until the day I die and meet Jesus, I'll still have those fears.
Right.
And other ones that will develop along the way. Before we go out, man, we have a lot going on this next year. We want to continue to remind people the Bulk Freight Conference is coming up next April. It's going to be here before we know it.
Yep.
And we were just talking about this morning some of the things that we got going on. I think it's getting bigger and bigger by the minute.
It is. I'm excited every time.
I mean, we're talking having bulk trailer companies coming down, sponsoring the event, but even bringing trailers down. We'll have some show trucks as well, stuff that we didn't have last year. But there's so much more than that. I mean, we've thought about everything to provide just the exceptional bulk haulers experience. Yep. Right now, if you are interested and you haven't yet, go to bulkfreightconference.com. You'll see a little pop-up, and we're not selling tickets yet, but it's just to save the date. We'll put you in our email, and when we do release those tickets, you'll be first to get them. I think this thing will sell out because there are capacity limits on this event.
Exactly.
And we want to make sure that you can come. I promise you will get a tremendous ROI out of attending this event. And I want you to attend the event more than anything. We don't care really about the ticket sales or anything like that. We want you to be there because I want to meet you personally if I've never met you. And I want you to experience what we experienced last year.
Yeah. And I was speaking on the conference. There's tons of guys just not even going to the conference website, but they're just calling in and saying, hey, put me down on the list. You can do that as well. If you just want to call in or email us, we'll put you on a list on that as well. But we're not planning for next year. We're not just doing it on our own. We sent out a survey last year from this past conference about what people want to see improved and what they want to get out of the conference. So that's at the forefront of our minds, is we're really catering to you guys and what's really beneficial to our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure and go and sign up on that one. As always, when we close out of here, if you have any prayer requests, again, send them to prayer@bulkloads.com. We continue to get those. We usually get those, we write them down, and we give them to a team member to pray over. Man, there's more and more things going on. We know this industry's rough. I was talking to a lady just yesterday, really having a hard time where rates are specifically in their area. She didn't even ask, but I put her on our prayer list to pray for her and her family. But if you have struggles, big or small, man, we want to hear them. Send us those, and we will do it. You can do it however you want. And honestly, I mean, we want to be able to pray. We don't share that with anybody but our team members in here. So we take that very serious. So
before we go here, just a reminder, we will be at the Guilty by Association Truck Show in September.
In Joplin.
That's coming up soon. And then we'll actually be planning on attending the Ag Fair in Nebraska in December. So we'll be at both those shows. If you are going to attend those, please let us know. That way we can pack you up a gift. We'd love to meet you, shake your hand, and give you something.
Yep. Awesome. Well, as always, thank you for listening to the BulkLoads podcast. If you know others that can benefit from this, man, we would love for you to share this episode with others so we can get this in their hands. Hopefully this will help others out there that are battling fears themselves and give them relief. So thank you very much for listening. And as always, God bless.